I'm an ENTJ personality who keeps a small circle of friends.
I'm an ENFJ personality with a squad, a crew, a clique, and my girls.
I'm Dr. B. Cooper.
I'm Toyi Elizabeth.
And we're new friends. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good. I am at peace, but I'm still grieving. Thank you for asking. Y'all, I lost a dear friend of mine recently in the last few weeks, and it has been tough. And it's weird for me this time because I haven't lost a friend since I was in my 20s. So when I was in my 20s, many of you, if you read Toyi Elizabeth, you know this. I lost my friend Kendall. He was like my bestie, and I was devastated. But I was also young, and so it was just, I wasn't involved in the stuff. It was his family. And this time I was involved in like the stuff, picking out clothes and jewelry for her to wear and all that. So, yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. And it just comes and goes, but I am going to miss my friend a lot.
Yeah.
And I still miss Kendall. His birthday is Christmas Eve, and I always think about him, and there's funny things that will happen, and I'll be saying, like, I wonder what he'd be saying. Like, I wonder what he would think of my life. But I think the other thing is when you lose somebody young like that, he is perpetually 22. Right. Like when I think of him, he looks like what he looked like then, which now he would be like, 50, or close to 50. And so he would look different, but I don't have that in my head. I was talking to someone about doing the stuff, and they were like, well, this is where we're headed, right? We're going to keep losing friends. And I was like, oh my gosh, but.
Well, may I just add that it's been a really important part of our friendship to watch you really love this person. It's been very, I don't know. I've loved watching it. I'm just grateful that I've been able to see you love this person. I've watched you say things on social media. I've seen you take your space and do what you need to do to move forward. I've seen you help her husband, and it really is a great lesson. And so I appreciate that because that's the kind of friend you are. And it meant a lot to me. I haven't told you this, but
I know. I'm like, you're trying to get me to cry on camera.
No, but it's real for
thank
me.
you.
It's been very beautiful to watch you love your friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're here today. We are here to talk about friendships that have ended, but not like that. Not friendships that we have lost, but friendships, breakups, friendships that either we have decided to end or the other person decided to end it. But the bottom line is whatever happened, the friendship ended. And so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you because you're tougher and rougher than me because you do not play. You do not play. So I'm going to ask you, what is it like to end a friendship?
Wow. I wish I didn't have an answer.
But we know you
do. I do. Well, prior to just not entering into things that I had to end, right? So that is in some ways, we'll get into that. Ending friendships, when people say they've been ghosted.
Yes.
I do have experience. I have experience. So I have ghosted people in the past. I have, I think that the more we talk about it, you'll have more empathy for me.
I will not, because I was ghosted by I believe, the man who invented ghosting. No one has ever been ghosted like I was ghosted. Like, this brother ghosted me like it was insane. Like, to the point where, like, it's been 30 years, I still can't even really talk about it. I was like, you just act like just poof, went away. Yes, one day I'll discuss it.
I have been a poofer.
Wow. Yes. What is it with you people? See, that's the difference between the T and the F right there.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so talk to me about that. Like, how do you ghost?
I think that it's a defense mechanism. I think for me it was, now in retrospect, I don't think I thought that as it was happening. But when I can't handle a situation, maybe things get heated, maybe there's an argument that I know I'm going to get upset about, and I'm going to say something that's going to be even worse than saying nothing. or I don't know how to navigate it emotionally. So in the past, I've been like, well, if they don't call, I'm not calling. And what's bad about that is that I'm not afraid of the person. So like if I'm in public and we and we
Mm,
see each other, I'm like, hey, right? And they're like,
really? Yeah, they'd be like, seriously. So you just gonna act like
you gonna act like you didn't just disappear. But I
yeah.
have I have a lot of experience doing something like that because it's not ill will. It's not like I hate you. It's just that we can't get it together, and I'm not gonna put all my energy in that. So I'm just gonna disappear. And if I see you, hey. But that has caused some problems in the past, of course, as you would
Yeah,
suspect. It
yeah.
has caused problems where I've been thought of as unfeeling, or you know
ENTJ all day.
ENTJ all
All
day,
day.
right? So that's
Yeah.
what it, I mean, I don't know if what it feels like for me. I think that eventually I just erase the situation out of my head. If I've been the one to, now I've been in situations where I received the end of a friendship and I'm not very good at it. People say if you could take it, you can get,
You
I'm
can
not
dish
good
it
at
out. You can take, if you dish it out, you need to be able to take
I'm
it.
not very good at taking it. But
Really?
I mean, I'm not calling and like, you gonna be my friend, you gonna love. I'm not doing that. Man, I'm not doing
No.
that. But at the
Mm.
same time,
You
I'm in
don't
my
like it. You
feelings,
don't
right?
like
Like
it.
it
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah. So it's
So,
interesting for me because obviously the way I consider friendships and people, um, I don't really end friendships. I redefine friendships. And I know we're going to talk about that in a different episode. So
mhm.
I don't want to talk through that now. But friendships that have ended, gosh, I mean, the guy who ghosted me, that would probably be the first time something just like ended like that. Like that was
Yeah.
crazy. But like I said, I can't even, it was just so, it was so much that I had a dream about it one night,
Oh.
probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. I dreamed that we got closure. And I honestly, when I woke up, I felt better and I thanked God. I was like, oh, wow, you gave me closure for that. It was like
Hmm.
perfect. And then, but friendships, with a woman,
Yeah.
friendships, I can only think of like two that ended. One that was my doing, and the other, and in all of these friends I know, one that was my doing and the other that really wasn't, but I was kind of forced to end it, I
Hmm.
guess. So it was weird. But the first one, the one that I would say, I don't know if I talked to this person today, if they would say they ended it or I ended it.
Hmm.
But for me, they ended it. And it was one of those things where I was calling, like the person stopped
Hmm.
calling and I was calling and they weren't answering. And it was back when we had the caller ID boxes.
All
Remember the
right.
caller? So you could see it was right, and that was a new thing, right? It was not like now these kids don't understand. You always knew who's calling or
Right,
whatever,
right.
but caller ID boxes. And it was the beginning of star
Oh
67. Is that
yeah,
what
you
it
can
is?
call
Right.
back.
Call. And so I was calling and she wasn't answering. We just talk every day. We talked every day,
Hmm.
multiple times a day. And then one day we didn't talk. And I was like, oh, she didn't answer. Okay, whatever. And then the next day and the next day, maybe the third day, I did star 67 where you could block your number and she answered. And I was like, oh. And then she was very short and curt and whatever. I had no idea. And honestly, to this day, I do
Hmm.
not know what I did to the person.
Hmm.
But then I called her mother because I was close to her mother. And her mother basically told me, like, let her go. Yeah, her mother was
Really?
like, let her go. What was happening, and this is what I learned,
Huh.
this was when I learned that there are people in your life
Hmm.
who only like you when you're down. You know how people say, I was always warned
Yes.
by my
Yes.
grandmother, be leery of people that only want to be
Hmm.
with you when you up. They only want to be
Hmm.
with you when it's good.
Hmm.
I was aware of that, but I was never aware of people who only wanted to be with you when you were
Wow.
down. And this is a person who was ride or die with me through the early part of my life,
Hmm.
you know? And as my life changed and evolved, I had her with me. Like, you see what kind of friend I
Oh
am,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I had her with me. If I'm taking a trip, you taking a trip. If I'm getting Movado, you getting
Mm.
Movado. If I'm getting Gucci, you getting Gucci.
Mhm.
I was out there like a rapper. Like, I was, I had graduated from school or whatever, was making a whole bunch of money and whatever. I was like, girl, where we going? What we doing? Where we flying? Whatever. I was devastated by that. And
Yeah.
I grieved that relationship really hard. And like I said, it wasn't a redefinition. We just stopped talking. And
Wow.
I do not know why. Sometimes I'll run into people from that old set or crew, and they'll be like, whatever happened to you guys? And I was like, honestly, I don't know.
You
I can
still
tell
don't
you,
know.
no, I still don't know. I just tell people what her mother told me.
That's
Like, she
crazy.
can't handle who you are. And then
Huh.
when I launched Par for the Curse,
Hmm.
I was living here, and she called me. She asked another friend if she could get my number. My
Hmm.
friend asked me, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm me. Praise the Lord. I was looking up at
Yeah.
God like, word. Um, right. But and I told her yes, and we had a conversation, and she
Yeah.
told me how proud she was, and she was saying a lot of good things. I was sitting right out there in my outdoor space, and I'll never forget it. And I sat there, and so we're not going to address that you've been gone for 11
Yeah.
years, that
Yeah.
you like whatever it was. And when we did get off the phone, I did feel like she was opening up and extending to renewing the friendship.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, then. Nice talking to you. All right, then.
Didn't even deal with the fact that
No, we
11
we
years.
didn't. We didn't. And I
Wow.
mean, it was painful. It was
Yeah.
painful. So I don't know why that friendship
Hmm.
ended. I don't know. I don't know if I did something that I
Hmm.
don't know. Like I said, all I know is her mother was like, let her go.
Yeah.
And if your mama tell me let you go,
That's what you
I gotta let
do.
you go. And so I've done that,
Hmm.
and I have not allowed this person back in my space. We've
Yeah.
talked on the phone a few times over the last 20 some years, like maybe
Hmm.
2 or 3 times. And it's always a pleasant conversation. But the space, first of all, if you couldn't handle the space in my life when I was 27,
Yeah.
you sure ain't gonna be able to handle
Right?
all these
Because,
rolling
oh,
hills.
I know, because
I took
when
it
you
from
were, I'm sorry, when you started talking about I live here, I almost, and then I was
I did.
like,
I knew you were gonna do it. That's why I took it from you. I took it from you. Like, yeah, you see this? So no. But seriously, but it was painful. And it was the lesson I learned in the loss of that friendship was that
mm,
there are people who can only be your
mm,
friend when you
oof,
are hurting and they cannot be your
yeah,
friend when you are happy.
yeah.
And that was a lesson to me, and that was very
Hmm.
painful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about that right now, like that the ghosting part does happen for me. And I'm sure like a lot of that ghosting happened because I felt that from the other party. Like, oh, you can't deal with me and I'm not going to try to make you deal with me, right? We just done. But I recently have lost a friend, and maybe one day he will listen to this discussion and think it's him, and if you do, it absolutely is you. um
Child.
but we started being friends in college, and our connection was, as you probably wouldn't be a surprise to you, our connection was protesting, injustices,
Right. The liberation of black
the
people.
liberation of black people. And
Hmm.
we really connected on that, to the point that I met him and we were running for office and he was running for office, and somebody was like, you shouldn't run for office. And I was like, man, forget them. Do whatever it is you want to do. So he was attracted to that kind of like, confidence and that energy. And we ended up being really good friends. We were born around the same time. We had a lot in common. And throughout college, that was kind of, we were each other's ride and die, right? After college, we continued to talk, but we didn't talk for a little while after I got married, and a lot of that had to do with the marriage. And we rekindled our friendship, and we would talk frequently. And even if we didn't talk frequently, when we talked, it was 2 3 hour conversation, right? There were patterns that he had that I was able to kind of function within for a long time, right? He's gonna call me. He's gonna ask for something. He's got some new business that he's doing. He's gonna ask me to contribute to it in some way. I'm gonna contribute to it, and
right, I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. There was always something, but it was always like, but that's my boy. I love him.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get through this. For some reason, the last time, we were supposed to get together because I think that he was living in New York now that I'm living in New Jersey. And he, again, well, I can't really come. I may need a couple of dollars. You know what? Let me just go ahead and forward you this couple of dollars. And I remember when I forwarded to him, and I was like, Lord, I can't be disappointed anymore with him.
Wow.
I love him, and I can't be disappointed. And I'm giving him this money, not really caring about the money, right? I'm never going to see it again. It's going to be fine. And also, I'm choosing to give him this amount. He didn't ask for an amount. I chose to give him an amount. But for some reason, in this moment, if he doesn't show up, I'm done. And
And did he show up?
No.
He took the money and didn't show
Girl.
up. Wow.
And but also, I know, right, bruh, right? But also in true his form, it wasn't something new. It wasn't like I wasn't surprised. As a matter of fact, when I went that day, I was like, oh, let me go get something to eat and go home. And I was like, oh yeah, and wait for him. Like I was like, I forgot I'm going here to.
Yeah.
But that I decided I wouldn't say that I ghosted him after that. He did call me. I don't think I answered the phone. I think he left a message. I don't believe that I responded to it. So maybe I did ghost him. But I felt very much in that moment that, friendship is a two-way street. And while it's hurtful to end something, because I love him and I still love him, right? It's hurtful to end it. But at the same time, how many times am I supposed to,
Yeah.
repair my heart? Right. So ghosting doesn't always mean that the person is trying to do something to you. Sometimes we're trying to protect our hearts.
I think it's always that.
Yeah.
So for me, because I'm not a ghoster, first of all, I have an extremely high tolerance for conflict, as you know.
Yes, you do.
About this life.
Yeah.
Right. Because I am a fan of healthy conflict, engage early, engage often, to keep the blow up. I don't do chaos. I cannot stand chaos. And so I will go to someone and sit down after the first thing you said that I didn't like and be like, hey, you said this thing, whatever. The second relationship that has ended in my life where there was a conflict. And it was actually, in hindsight, I think a lot differently about it, but I'm going to keep it 100 for the people, right? 2 of my friends had a conflict and I loved them both. You know how I am about my friends. I loved them both very, very much. And they had a conflict, but one was meaner than the other and was really, mistreating my friends. And it was messing up the vibe, right? Yeah. And our families were friends. Like the kids, the husbands, like we were a village. I went to have a conversation with the woman and I said, what is going on? And I tried to talk to her. And basically she was like, I feel how I feel, respect how I feel, right? And it's a wrap. And when I left there, I was very grieved, but I was like, okay, it's a wrap. Let's call her, Layla. Layla called me and said, remember what I told you. I don't want to fool with her. And do not mention my name to her. And if she mentions my name to you,
my mouth,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yes. And if she mentions my name to you, you better change the subject.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, cool. I was going into the city that day. I come back from the city and my girlfriend calls and says, guess what? I had brunch with Layla. Then Layla said to my friend, I swear on my kids' lives, I don't have no issue with you.
Oh, what?
Right. This is what we're working with. This is what, because I never told my friend that I went to try to squash the beef between them. I didn't even tell her. And I never told her to this day. I have not told her everything that woman said. But then it clicked for me. That's why you said to me, if she mentions my name, change the subject. Like, who are you, Men in Black? You think you're just going to, and we're going to forget it? And so when I came back from the city, while I was at the city, she did all this. And in her mind, I wasn't going to find out that she did that. You know that whenever I have a conflict with somebody, somewhere in the story has to do with them being on the opposite of God.
Yes, yes, always, always.
And it is true. It's true. It's true. It's true. Because at first I tried to reject that, but I was like, "You right. You right." And so I try to pull us together to pray. I'm praying on my own, and emails are starting to fly. Husbands are being copied.
What?
Like, it was off the hook. It was straight up. It was worthy. I wish I would have been in this space back then, because I would have straight captured all of it, and we would have been on Bravo. It was a definite Bravo TV show, right? My request to pray was rejected by her in a way that was demonic,
Really?
and I was just like,
what does that look
oh, when people reject prayer, not just like, I don't want to pray about it because I need to deal with it. It was, ain't nobody got time to be praying over no, it was all that, right? Smoke. So I'm like, okay. And then another email was sent. And then I think at some point the emails that were sent, like, my husband was copied, and this is what you do not do. So I offered to pray again. I was like, we love you, and we understand that you're going through something. And that's why I'm always telling you about being able to count, being able to understand, to see the brokenness in people, so that you don't break them further. And so, but I was not this way. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to break her spirit. And I did, and I did. And I said things, and I just, and it just got ugly. It got so ugly that it was it. The village was on fire. And we didn't need no water. It just burned. It just burned.
Burn. It seems like, hearing that story, that she had some problem with you.
But I don't think she did. I don't think she did.
Why doesn't she want to talk to you now?
Well, because I flamed her.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. How did I forget about that?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because that's normal to me.
We know. We know.
Even though, I mean, is it bad that there's some part of that story that I really love? This is why God is still working on me. Because I love that you flamed her up.
No, that's not good.
No, let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because some of what I've dealt with the ghosting part is not being able to say things. And maybe it's always about how you say things. It's not that I'm much better with conflict now. I actually am not conflict averse either. I like getting into healthy conflict, but if I always am afraid I'm going to say something that's going to be really hurtful to the person. But the closer I'm getting to God, the more I'm like, it's like I have to remember why I'm saying something. Because see, it used to be because I just want to flame you up.
So this is what I want to say. I want to add this. That's really important, because I had never flamed on anyone like that in like 30 years. The last time I flamed on somebody like that, I was like 22, and it was ridiculous. This flame, it was a flame, but I did speak the truth in love. And that hurts people when they can't accept their truths. I did not call her names.
Of course not.
I did not cuss. I did not fuss. But I broke down who she is, who I thought her to be, and explained that I still loved her anyway, So you know how I say to you, girl, you are rough with the girl. Don't say that, right?
Right.
But it's because you know who you are. So because you know who you are, it doesn't bother you. Like, you right, something. But if someone is walking around pretending to be something they're not, or they haven't dealt with their past, and so their past still wounds them, if I say to you who you are, it bothers you. That's what I did.
And that's the best
That's
flame
what
ever.
I did.
And that's what I'm saying. So I know you. So I know you didn't cuss nobody. I mean, but I have had these moments where I'm like, why didn't I take that opportunity to say what I was feeling from my heart out of love? Because I know that hurts. Right. And I am appreciative that I am able to do that more so now as I've gotten older. But those ghosting moments in the past have been the inability or the lack of desire to do it in those moments. And I have revisited, I mean, where you've had these wonderful dreams where you're like, and then we came together. Mine have been, and then I flamed them up.
Yeah,
And that's
no.
real. I'm not just saying that. I've had moments like, okay, let me go back to that moment. What would I have said? Right. And so, whatever has happened between you and this woman, at least she's clear about how you felt in that moment. Right.
Yeah, I think so. And I really don't think, and so I said flames her up because I hit her with truth that was hard for her.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this. And then, like, and that wasn't the end of it. And then later on, like, let's say a couple of months later, the husbands tried to get us on the phone and I was open to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was Mother's Day.
Mm.
And I was like, Happy Mother's Day, blah, 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 whatever. How are you? And she was like, let's just get this out the way. I'm a real B. And you not get ready to talk. I handed the phone right back. Like, you still don't have it, right? You still, like, what are we doing? And so for me, though, I will say this. Like I said, there's only been those two friendships that have ended, right?
Yeah,
The one
yeah.
from way back. And then this one. But when I think back on that first one, I don't know what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what I could have done differently.
Right.
I just have to go by what the woman's mother told me.
Yeah.
But in this one, I probably would have done things differently. And I say that because I have grown so much spiritually now that I did tell her the truth in love, but I chose my words carefully.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't call her names.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't cuss at her. And I didn't say anything that wasn't the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It was not subjective. It was very objective things. It would be like if I said to you, you are the wife of Steve and you are the mother of the, like, it was true things, but it's stuff she hadn't reconciled in her heart yet. So she pushed back on it. And I wouldn't do that today. Mm-hmm. Because now today I understand that people can't reconcile their truths. I also understand my gifts of mercy and discernment, where I know when somebody is sensitive about something. Mm-hmm. And while I was cognizant not to call her names or cuss at her, I meant to hurt her.
Right.
I meant to, like I said, to break her spirit, that spirit that was in her, that I perceived to be at that point demonic and on the opposite of God. Yeah. And once you show me you're not with God, you're my enemy. And once you're my enemy, honey, the kingdom of God suffers violence, and the violent take it by. I'm about this kingdom living, and I'm forceful about trying to live this life. And so because of that, if you're on the wrong side, there will be blood. Thank you, Jesus.
And so I want to be closer to that place, because I think that that's how I'm getting closer to God. Like, I was far from God by not saying anything. It can happen in both ways.
Absolutely.
Right? By not saying anything and then letting things happen the way they would, and already knowing what was going to happen as a result of not saying anything. I'm going to ghost. I'm going to disappear. This friendship going to be over. It could have been other ways that I could have dealt with that. I could have been like, I care about this person. We need to deal with this. It's going to be hard. And so that's what I mean. Like, if that, I mean, of course there's sport to me in flaming, because God is still working on me, but I'm not going to lie. So I appreciate the story in that sense. And I've always appreciated that about you. Always people like, y'all just met. So what? The time that we've been knowing each other. Not so what, but
this is no, you said it. That's
I said what I meant.
That was authentic Dr. B. Cooper. Like, and so what? I just met her, and what?
And what? Right?
And what?
I do really respect that. We talked about respect. I respect that. I respect when somebody says we have to deal with this thing. And I respect I think that that's why I told you this friendship won't end. And it doesn't mean that we may not go through things that I have gone through in the past and ended friendships over. Right?
Yeah, but you're not going to ghost me, because I don't do that.
Well, I'm not going to ghost you.
I will come to your house. I will ask the maid to let me in.
What?
Have the butler swing me round back.
If they knew what the cook was cooking in your kitchen right now.
No. And be like, you're not going to ghost me. We're going to talk about this.
I wouldn't do that to you. Now, why do I end some of my friendships? What could I just say? Like, girl, that hurt me. or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you didn't call me and blah, because I love talking over the phone. Like, Toy, I'm gonna need to talk over the phone. Like, what do I need to,
Yeah.
how, what lesson do I need to take from that? That some of these things that lead to my ghosting are me not being able to say, maybe there's a hole in me that I'm trying to fill and I didn't even tell you. And then you didn't
Yeah.
feel it. And I was like, forget you.
Yeah, that's real though. That's real. And I think to your point, it everyone has that. So
Mhm.
so in every relationship that ends, whether it is a marriage that ends in divorce, whether it
Mhm.
is a friendship, whether it is a separation on a job, like whatever it is, every relationship that ends, there is dual accountability.
Yeah,
That's my perspective. And I am ENFJ, and the J is capital bold with exclamation point, as we just said from the story,
that's
because it's
right.
the J in me that caused that conflict,
Yes.
right? It was like I had a judgment on what I thought should be happening and who this person
Mhm.
should be. And I was wrong for that. And I can now see that years later.
Yes.
Not enough to reintroduce myself into the relationship, but I understand that now.
Yeah.
I think in relationships,
Mhm.
we we don't want to be vulnerable, and we
Mhm.
want our friends to read our minds.
Yeah.
And I've said this to you
Mhm.
before, topic for a different show, but I have been in rooms where there was 300 people there to celebrate me,
Mhm.
and I looked around the room and I thought, there is not a single person in here who knows me.
Wow.
There is not
Yep.
a single person in here who knows how terrible I feel right now, what a dark
Mm.
place I'm in right now.
Mm.
And I was resentful of that. And as I have grown, I realized I have ownership for that too, because I didn't show people that,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
show people
Yeah.
that and I didn't tell people that. And so,
Mhm.
and the only way for your friends to be there for you
Right.
is that you let them. That as I've become my authentic self
Hmm.
and become more true to who I am, I've learned to be honest about that.
Yeah.
So if I was the me today in that friendship where my three friends, were my two other friends, first of all, I would not have taken it upon myself to try to go fix it,
Yeah.
because that was their mess to fix.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't have taken it upon myself. But we all know I'm about this conflict. So I would have called all three of us together. I was trying to control the situation and try to fix stuff and patch it up, and sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you got to let it blow up. And I
Yeah.
have girlfriends, close girlfriends that I consider sisters, where our stuff has blown up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to go through it to get to it,
Come on now. You
right?
better
And
preach.
so you're crazy. And so this is the call and response. Girl, I cannot. You are hilarious, because you grew up in the Baptist church, because
Very
you
much
you
so.
preach back in a minute. But you got to go through it to get to it, that authentic friendship. And
Mhm.
in Toy Elizabeth, I talk about that in the chapter on
Mhm.
friendship. I talk
Mhm.
about that, where my grandmother, she only had one friend because she didn't want the drama. She was trying to
Yes.
protect herself, and she still ended up hurt.
I'm
She
just
still
thinking about how we're talking about things end. They don't end because of some really bad thing that happened. Sometimes they end because they just fizzle out.
Yeah,
They
that's
or
true.
there can be some kind of like, well, at least at my example, two really good high school friends, and I'm still really good friends with them today. One of them, of the three of us, she always kept in contact with both of
I'm
us.
sorry. I just need to take a moment of privilege here. So you do have more than one
You
friend
know
and one
what?
sister.
I'm redefining friendship.
Amen. Come through, Jesus.
I am redefining friendship based on our friendship.
Hmm.
And I can't believe how like easily I dropped that word. Look at me
I know.
growing.
That's
Look
why I
at
needed to
me.
pause, and we need to
I need to
celebrate.
shimmy.
Yeah, you
Look at that.
do. That was
That
extraordinary.
was. Now we were friends in high school. I will say that those are the two girls that I considered friends in high school. But then as high school, we all had different paths after high school. And so we really didn't talk that much and I didn't use that word to refer to them. But again, my redefinition is happening because this is somebody who has not left my side as a person since high school. Even when I was trying to shake, like, well, we don't have a lot in common anymore. She would be like, we're friends and we're best friends. So one time she said that, and when I was living in Iowa, she was like, we're best friends. And then I had to have a conversation with her about it. Cause you know me with these words, right?
I started
And
laughing because I was like, I know this did not. I know
and
this was
she's
smoke.
gonna watch it, and I love her, so I will even prepare her for this, because this is just a real conversation. And I was like, she was like, we're best friends, we're best friends. And I remember getting so angry at her saying that. And I was like, I have lived in Iowa. I said, can we talk a little bit about this whole we're best friends?
That sounds like you to
And it
me.
happened. I have lived in Iowa now for about 6 years. You have not been to visit me. Every time I come to Chicago, and I was going back and forth to Chicago, and I had two parents ill at the time. So I felt like I was being a good person by reaching out to people who weren't my parents. Because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, all I had the energy for, my mom had dementia, my dad had a few strokes, and he was suffering and struggling, and I really only had energy for them and my
Mm-hmm.
family. But yet, I am coming to see you when I come to Chicago. I am hanging out with you, and you're calling yourself my best friend. You ain't even get. I'm 3 hours away from you. I was
Maybe
like,
she meant you were her best friend, but maybe she wasn't your best friend.
well, listen, and we gonna have to call her and ask her that question after this show.
Because I think one of the big mistakes we make in friendship is
Hmm.
believing that our friendships are supposed to be reciprocal. I have heard
You think
people
that's a
say this.
mistake?
I do, because people can only give you, first of all, nobody gonna outfriend me.
That's
Okay. I
true.
have a high capacity for conflict, pain, and friends. Right? I do. So I have a high capacity for love because of my
Mm,
relationship with God.
yeah.
And so people can't love you past their relationship with God. They can't love you past their experience.
Mm,
So I don't expect reciprocity. I expect um in the grand scheme of life, I
hmm.
expect friendship reciprocity. So out in that garden, I plant a seed in one of my little buckets,
Yeah.
and the seed grows up in that bucket. In
Hmm.
friendship, I might plant a seed over here
Hmm.
and get it back over here.
Hmm.
So that space, to me, then I look at my friendship experience in totality, not just the individual friend. Now, I'm not saying let someone abuse
Oh,
you.
I
I'm not saying,
see.
that's not what I'm
Okay.
saying. I'm not saying where you're a friend to someone and they're not a friend to you. I'm not saying they're
I hear
using you
that.
and whatever. But what I'm saying is, I have seen so many friendships end because the person was like, it's not reciprocal.
Mm.
And I'm like, Hunty, your love for God is not reciprocal. God loves you way more than you love him. Let's be clear. And
Hmm.
if our relationship with God
Yeah.
is not reciprocal, we do not love God as good as he loves
Mm,
us.
mm.
Why would we expect another human being who is
Yeah.
flawed and got all kind of stuff happening to be able to love us the way we love them? It's
Yeah.
different. And listen, there are people who probably believe, and they're probably right, that they are a better friend to me than I am to them. If someone's definition of friendship, okay, if someone's definition of friendship is that my friend talks to me on the phone, this is real,
Hmm.
then they would consider me not a very good friend
Yeah.
because I don't talk on the phone. And I
Right.
love them with all that I love, and I
Mhm.
can text with all the fervor of everything, but that's not what I do.
Yeah.
My friend that just passed away, she was a card person. She sends you card. I get about 4 or 5 cards from her every year. I'm gonna get a card on my birthday. I'm gonna get a card on my anniversary. This year is gonna be rough. A card on
Hmm.
my birthday, card on my anniversary, card if I win something,
Mm.
card if I post that I am feeling good. Like all through, she sends cards,
Hmm.
right? And she had this amazing penmanship that when you open the mailbox, you know it's hers, right? She sends cards. I do not send
Mm.
cards. I'm not a card person, right? I'm a basically a technology person. So anything I do with paper, I'm not generally good at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But over these last couple of years, 2 years ago in 2022, I sent her a birthday card in
Hmm.
celebration for her remission. And in the card I wrote, And girl, it wasn't sappy. It wasn't. I thank God for you. I did thank God for her, but it was like, and girl, you know I don't send cards. I went to the CVS. I picked out this card. I put a stamp on it. I put it because I love you. And she cracked up because she knew that was real.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
know, like, but if she was the kind of person who felt like, well, I'm always sending toy cards and
Yeah.
she never sends me a
Right.
card, she's not my real friend. I
Right.
go to the mat. I was with that woman till she died.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that was my girl. But I didn't send her cards.
Yeah. But I also am on my own journey, right?
Yeah.
And I am being intentional with friendships.
I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
Thank you, friend. And I'm not angry that you don't call me over the phone, just so you can know,
No,
just for the
I know
record.
you're not. I know you're not. I know you're not. But I'm saying someone could be or could be.
Yeah,
But
not me.
well, I think we've tackled this enough.
Yeah.
You know, friendships that are lost, friendships that are broken. But the
Mhm.
main thing is, no matter what happens with your friendships, you know, keep being open to new friendships because that's what we are, right?
And keep being honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So, all right, y'all, we're off the bluffs.
Off the bluffs.